life is smarter than our minds. It already knows many ways that we don't see, that only will be visible when you start.
Welcome back to a Road Less Doubtful podcast. Today we are talking with the beautiful Sophie Oudman. She is the creator of Happy Little Moments cards. She has been traveling around giving out hope and kindness and love to everyone that she passes by.
I just left them in little envelopes in random places. Then they were found by people. And it's kind of magical that there's something waiting for you when you step in the train. That's a really special feeling. Every card can touch many lives, and that will help me to create a movement.
We're going to dive into a conversation with her that is just about sharing love in the world and how that makes people feel.
Public speaking was my biggest fear, and I didn't really do anything to overcome that. It just went away, and maybe if I'm going to do it, then I'm still very afraid, but I just care less what people think, because my mission feels so strong that it doesn't really matter what they think of me, but what they think of my mission more.
All right, Sophie, let's get in and have a chat. So firstly, can I get you to introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are in however you want to introduce yourself to the world firstly?
Okay. I'm Sophie, and I work on a project called Happy Little Moments, which is about surprising strangers. 8.5 years ago, I started with giving cards to strangers, or actually I was leaving them behind in envelopes for the finder on it. And that has become my life's mission. And it became my work, so I could make a living from it by helping companies to surprise people and by making poetry. But right now I'm traveling because I think that surprising strangers is more important than... I really love doing what I love and helping companies, but there's something about surprising strangers that is, to me, more important because it helps the world more, I think. So I went back to Bali where it all started, and I plan to stay there for 2.5 months to get inspiration and to surprise as many people as possible. So I had a few thousand cards with me. And there I met Claire. So I gave her a card, and it really touched her because it came in the right moment. And then we became friends immediately, and she invited me to Melbourne, and now I'm giving cards in Melbourne.
I love that. There's so much with that. We're going to go over a few more things of that soon, because you said 8.5 years ago that you started doing that?
Yeah.
So I had a quick look at your human design chart, which I know you're a bit curious about as well. So I'll go into more depth with you, like personally, and I've got your book sitting there ready to go.
Oh, nice.
But you're a projector, and as a projector, it means that you have like this bird's eye view of the world. So the archetype that I have created recently to go with a projector is kind of like it's a hawk. So do you know, like you have hawks? You know what a hawk is? Like a hawk, like a big, majestic, strong bird.
Oh, okay.
And So that's kind of your energy. It's like you just soar everywhere and you see things from a different perspective. So you sort of see what needs doing in the world almost, which is very, very fitting. And then all of the other people are there to do the jobs for you. So as a projector, you're not made to work and do all of the time. So like Claire is exactly right. So Claire's a manifesting generator and I'm a generator. We're kind of the working bees. We're the ones who like will take some ideas or will start ideas, and just like for me, I'll just work and get the stuff done. So you need people like us to fulfill what you do. And exactly what you just said is really, really cool. The way you live in alignment, which is why we're going to go back and see how everything transpired for you for Happy Little Moments, because I'm really curious if there was ever like a flip between the old Sophie and maybe the Sophie that started the card. So we'll go into that. But with, again, being a projector, you're supposed to wait for the invitation. So your strategy and your authority is your spleen in human design. So have you looked at a chart yet? Do you know what that looks like?
Yeah, I know what it looks like, and I know what the white places are like more open. And I know that I have to wait for the invitation. I'm not sure if I do that in life because I'm going to people with my cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that as well. And I'm interested to see if they receive it differently based on a few things that you do. I'm curious. But if you think about maybe how your life's played out, like I don't know if businesses reached out to you once you started the cards or you just started talking. Yeah, right. So they invited you into their workspace. Claire invited you to Melbourne and then your next opportunities opened up. And then literally before we started here, I invited you onto the podcast through Claire. And so that's another opportunity to be seen and expand. And then I said, hey, come up to Harvey Bay, only based on this stuff. And there's no other reason. It's just that sometimes, Claire, I'm sure Claire and you have probably even talked about soul contracts as well, but there's people in your life that you're supposed to meet to get you to where you want to go. And that's how all of this fits. And so as a projector, you need all of the generators and the manifesting generators to get in and fulfill your vision. But it's about slowing down and waiting for that opportunity, taking rest and playing. And so something else I know about you is you seem to like to play and have fun with your life too. Would that be right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. I don't like to be an adult, but sometimes I have to.
Sometimes you have to. When you are an adult, what does that look like for you? What's your version of adulting?
It looks sad. Like I have to do my administration or other responsibilities.
Yeah. Does it feel like a bit like bitterness? Like, do you feel a bit bitter at the world? Does it feel like that ever?
No. I know that it's on my human design, but I never feel bitter.
Yeah, and I wonder if you've ever fully been out of alignment, because from just what I sense in you now, you seem to be relatively quite connected to yourself. And have you always been that way? Like, do you always feel like you... No, okay. Okay, let's go back to where you feel like the shift happened.
Okay. Yeah, I have a very good memory of my childhood, and I remember being very connected from, for example, when I was 3, I remember thoughts I had and really feeling in alignment and also consciously making memories to go back there if life would become harder. And then I had a difficult childhood and teenage years, and I felt like I didn't know who I was. I was drinking and partying and doing things that were not me, and I also had no idea who I was. And then I went to study arts, illustration, and it was very difficult because I didn't know who I was, so I didn't know my style, and my work was not good, and I was advised to quit every year. But I went on because I didn't know what else to do, and someone told me that I should go on. Someone encouraged me to go on. And then in my last year, it was worse than before because my fear of failure was so big that my work was even more ugly. and then I had a conversation with a teacher, and I explained like this and this and this is happening in my family situation, so it's hard for me now to do this. And then she, instead of feeling sorry for me, she was reminding me of my responsibility. Like, it's your life and you have to change your mind. And then it was something in my mind was so excited because I felt like this is true. And then I went home and I went searching on the internet and I found affirmations. And I was so desperate that I was very committed to doing affirmations 2 times a day in the mirror and telling myself that I'm a creative genius and things like that. And then a week later, my teacher said, when I had sketches, he said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "I don't know. I didn't even see the change. I was just playing." And then he said, "Yeah, but where does it come from?" And I still didn't know, but looking back, I could see that it changed in a big way. But then I had my graduation and I wasn't at school in between. I did everything in my own cocoon because I started having fun with it. And then I came out with my work at my graduation, and then you have to present the whole process. And they were really really positive about my work. They said like it reminded them of Matisse, the artist, and yeah, they had only good things to say about it. And then they said, we have to ask you a difficult question, but is this really your work? Because there is no process. It was not good. And then immediately there is nothing in between. So we don't know how you developed this. And then I was happy and honored, but they were very serious and very, really didn't believe that it came from me. So that was a bit scary. And then I said, I can draw it now to show you. And that was the moment that they believed me. But that completely changed my mind about how we create our self-image and our identity. And since that moment, I mean, some beliefs are hard to change. They come back again and again. You have to work on them. But this one was a deep negative belief I had, but it's changed completely. I've never ever had a writer's block or a block in creativity. I really started believing this about myself, and I don't know, it's like the whole problem was gone then. And since that moment, I feel just very creative and free in expressing myself.
When starting my journey of self-discovery, I felt alone and lost. That's why I'm so incredibly dedicated to this podcast and passionate about building you a place of community to help you remember exactly who you were before life got in the way. So with that said, word of mouth is one way we can grow this community. So please share this with your friends and family. And so you don't miss an episode, I'd love for you to tap the subscribe button. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I think that's so fascinating. I mean, people do things like that a lot, right? They maybe try the affirmations or the mirror talk or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily go quite as simply or as smoothly for them. But it definitely works. It's something that I know Claire has showed me in the past. It's something that I try and do myself. Like I have things written on my mirror for the same reason. I've just started putting some subconscious programming stuff on when I go to sleep so that it's, trying to tune that in. But the whole point is coming back to who you actually are. So by just saying what you said, you managed to hone your internal compass. And then that shifted everything. And I think that's the biggest key. It's also why I love human design. But I love where it led you and the things that you have said where you kind of just, you felt it or you don't know how, or you'll remember specific moments or just different things like that. They definitely line up with parts of your chart. And I wonder if now, or even since that moment, like you said, you haven't had a block in your creative process. I'm curious for you in your body, when you know that you need to go a certain way, like a certain path, you're like, okay, I'm going to go. So let's, for example, when Claire maybe said, come to Melbourne, did something happen in your body? Did you feel it a certain way? What does it feel like when you know you're supposed to do something? Can you explain that?
It just feels very clear. I have to think about where in my body I feel it, but it feels very. It felt very logical to say yes. I didn't have to think much about it.
Oh, so the funny thing is, you said it felt very logical, but you didn't have to think about it. So usually logic comes from the head or the mind.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right? But I'm wondering, so for you, you have, you're a splenic projector, which means your intuition or your knowing or your strategy. So your strategy is to wait for the invitation, but your authority is your spleen. Mm-hmm. And that's about instincts. It's about keeping you safe. It's literally like if you think back to the caveman days, kind of like fight or flight. It's that. Okay. It's also to do with your immunity. So if you're living in alignment, you're probably also healthier. You probably don't really ever get sick. Things just flow, all of that. And I don't know whether that has changed much since how you used to be as well.
Well, what's very interesting is since I'm doing this trip, and especially the last part, since I was in Rediscovering and in Melbourne, I realized that I'm not eating that healthy and not sleeping that much, but I feel very good. And for example, the last few nights I just slept only a few hours, and it's not that I'm super high because you can also sleep less when you're in a high, but it's just that I feel so much love that I feel like that's feeding me, and that what I eat has less influence.
Oh, you just gave me goosebumps. So I just had this conversation last night. We went to a breath work. So I'll quickly go back. So your spleen, the way it could feel, it'll feel different for every splenic projector. It feels different for everyone, the intuition. So for me, it's my sacral. It's like like my body goes, or it feels like I've been punched in the stomach. It's really quite like I've got it. And if I don't let my mind take over, I will steer correctly. For you, it's almost like you don't think at all and you don't have time to think. It is just, I feel it. It's like a whisper. And the more so the more you hone that whisper, it gets louder and louder.
Yeah.
And so then the more you trust it, it's like it's amplifying. So now and a lot of people can't do that, but it sounds like you've done it so well by doing those affirmations and going kind of a bit more within. And it'll be all of the things. It'll be, as a projector, taking time to do your art. That will probably be where you slow down. Most projectors are they're not made, but they're conditioned to go all of the time. Life says work hard, right? All the time, live up and do what everybody else is doing. And you've gone, no, I hate it. I'm not. I'm doing it my way. And you're not failing. You're not failing because of that.
Yeah, but I've tried a normal job, but I was very unsuccessful.
Exactly. And it wouldn't have felt right, and your spleen would have said no, but your head would have gone, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Well, my head never thought I was supposed to do that.
Well, there you go. Well, something that wasn't your natural intuition led you that way. Having said,
I needed money.
There you go.
So, but then I was drawing during my work, and then I didn't get my targets. So.
But do you feel like money flows anyway when you just do you? Like opportunities just come and you get more invited anyway for a lot of things? Or even if it's not money, almost wealth, like you don't necessarily have to have the money because someone will offer you a place to stay, or your opportunities will come in anyway.
Yeah, I think so. And I think money could flow more if I would work on that part of my mindset. But even if I feel like, I don't have much anymore, I'm just not stressed about it, because I think there's not something that can really go wrong. Because in the worst case scenario, I would have a normal job for a while, and then I still didn't feel.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful outlook, because it's a space that I'm kind of sitting in at the moment. And I know I go back and forwards with material things based on my conditioning, having the money, having the house. But I know for me, and it's getting louder and louder and louder, I don't want the things. I know exactly what I want my life to look like. And I need to be brave like you and just jump, because I know the rest will happen, because I'm seeing it in so many people. And it's like, I just know. I know it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I have this little part of me that's using up here that's like, but no one else does it that way. And so I'd like leaning in, but I'm just not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's also a bit scary because your mind doesn't know how. But life is smarter than our minds, I think. So it already knows many ways that we don't see, that only will be visible when you start.
Oh, I think that's possibly going to be the best thing you've said the whole thing. Life is smarter than our minds. I think that's fantastic. I think that's going to have to go on my mirror as well. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to what you said about your health. So the conversation, what was happening last night, and about love, is that we were sitting around, we'd just finished a breath work. We were all talking about different things in our life where we wanted to go. And one of the guides there had created just this beautiful dinner, rice and like just a healthy salad. And every single one of us couldn't understand why this food tasted so good. But all of us were like, this is insanely good. It was just a salad and it was just rice. Yeah. And we were talking about it, and he's like, it's just because it was made with love. Think about any meal, right? And it's the same with anything. When you're infused with love, the energy, there's literally a barometer, and I can't remember what they called it now, for the vibration of love. and it can be fed into food. So if you're fighting when you're making food, and it really made me think with my children, I've lost that love of cooking in the kitchen. So I'm like, part of me feels like I'm now poisoning my kids.
Oh yeah.
In a sense, with what I'm infusing into my cooking, because I'm not slowing down. But it just goes to kind of what you're saying, that your life is infused with love. What you're doing is filling you up so much that you're right. You naturally, your spleen now is like, your immunity is just so high. You're vibrating so high. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, that's strange, because I've been eating very healthy for the last few years, and I noticed how much it brought me. Like it made me feel really good, and I also needed less sleep when I was just fasting and things like that. But now I'm traveling, it's harder to be disciplined and also to have the things I normally would have. So I'm a bit doing, I'm not so good now in doing the healthy things, but I noticed that I just feel so good no matter what I'm eating. But I think that, and the sun is also helping. The sun.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like without the sun, it would be harder for my body and mind.
Yeah. Because how long since you've left the Netherlands?
I left the 6th of December.
Okay. And you've had sunshine since? Sort of, except that you're in Melbourne, which is not really sunshine.
Well, here was also a lot of sunshine. But yeah, I've had a lot of sunshine in Nusa Lembongan. And in Bali, a little bit, but not that much, because it was in Ubud, so then you're a lot inside or in the shadow.
Yes. All right, let's talk a little bit more about your Happy Little Moments cards and exactly how you do that. Because something I wrote down, it was on your little website, and it says, a few words in the right moment can change somebody's day. And I even thought that was really cool. I know it's super simple, but even as a projector, if someone's ready to receive what you have to say, it's literally that. Your wisdom, you're just this knowing of what's supposed to happen for whoever those people are you're supposed to meet is literally that. Just a couple of your key words, not necessarily your cards, but I just think that's why it's so fitting, is that it can change someone's day or the trajectory of their life.
Is that something that's about projectors in general, or? Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of their things, because you've got this knowing, you've got this seeing, like you see what needs to shift. So you might be able to see, sorry, Siri's trying to talk to me every time I say see. You see the people who might need it. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, you intuitively pick the people. I mean, sometimes you might just be handing them out. Yeah. But I feel like there's something in you that instinctually goes, that person needs that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's you doing you, and then as a projector going, I feel that they're my people. Now, you probably still get some rejections because people aren't as open to love, which is something that I would love for you to talk about if you're willing to talk about that. But do you want to start with like the process of, like, I know you said where they started, and I think I would love to then go into now how you deliver them, why you kind of changed a little bit about how you deliver them, because you said they were going in envelopes. And now, So do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah. I did the first 4 years where I did it anonymously. Do I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. So I just left them in little envelopes in random places. So, for example, on in the train. And then they were found by people and they could react through Instagram. And I really liked them. It's kind of magical that there's something waiting for you when you step in the train. That's a really special feeling, I think. And also leaving them behind and not knowing what they're going to do, the cards for people. But then something happened which changed, or which gave me another approach. And that was that I was on an empty parking space. It was not empty, there were cars, but they were all empty. And I was putting them on all the windows. And then I noticed that there was one truck with someone in there. And I was a bit unsure about what to do, because I thought it would be unkind to not give it to him just because he's there. So I decided, but it felt also strange to give it directly. But I decided to do it because I don't want to not give it to him for that reason. And then I gave it to him, and then I received a long letter from him that evening, that it was so needed for him in that moment, and that it made such a big difference in his day, that he felt really down, and that it gave him love and hope. And even from a family member of his, I received a message that it was so important to him. And then I realized the extra value that it can have to get something directly, because it also creates connection. And the reason with traveling I decided to do it this way was for two reasons. First, the envelopes are bigger because they also have a wax stamp. So I cannot take so many with me, and also they get more damaged easily. So, and I thought with the cards, with an envelope, it's very personal. So it's very much for the one who finds it. But when you write on a card without an envelope, you can pass it on to the next stranger. Then it can have a much bigger impact, because every card can touch many lives. And that will help me to create a movement. So I decided to do it that way. And also I had to make them in English, because all my cards were in Dutch. So it was a whole new series of the cards.
Hey guys, if this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot and share it to your Instagram stories and tag myself at A Road Less Doubtful. And if you're ready to lean into the parts of you that have been hidden away and start your road to less doubt and have way more fun, I'd love for you to join our community of like-minded women who build each other up inside our free Facebook group. Tap the link in the show notes below, and I can't wait to see you on the inside and travel this journey together. That's so cool. I love that so much. It's funny because even as a 3-5, so that's your profile, it's the 3-5. And which means it's about trial and error. So it's about trying things on, living life experiences. But you're actually here. I talked about it a little bit in another episode, but your 5 line, it mirrors to people what's also inside them. So sometimes it can trigger them, but sometimes it's like, so if I watch you and I see you doing this, there's part of you that I can be super inspired by, because I'm like, part of that is in me. And it's lighting up that part, whatever it is. It might, like someone else who meets you will take a different part of that away. But for me, I really connect with that love and that connection piece, because it's something that's really playing throughout my life, especially now. So I'm looking at it, and that's really inspirational. Some of the other people, if there's something that maybe they don't really want reflected back at them, you're still going to trigger them a little bit with that too. So when you might hand them out, do you get some negative responses?
I do. Not so often, but in Melbourne more often than before. One girl was a bit angry, and she thought that we were a cult.
A happy love cult. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah. Well, I think she really found it a bit scary, but it says a lot about her that she doesn't feel the kindness.
And that's what I was going to say. So that mirror piece, right? You're reflected. She doesn't, there's something in her that's disconnected from that. And so even if it felt really shitty for you, you've still triggered something. And that's not necessarily sounding like the best word, but by doing that, hopefully, or somewhere down the track, she will think about it and she'll go, oh, hold on, no, what was I missing?
I hope so. I really hope so. But she seemed so close that I felt like I only made her angry and fearful. But I don't know, of course, what else will happen afterwards, or if it makes her think. Maybe it does. Or maybe I'm just one of the many little things that makes her think one day.
I'm wondering, when you give the cards out, do sometimes you say, would you like this? And other times you just hand it?
Yeah. Sometimes I ask, well, maybe I don't ask.
No?
Sometimes I just give it. And sometimes I say, I have a card for you, or this is for you. Oh yeah, and sometimes I say, can I give you a card?
When you say, can I give you a card, has anyone rejected you in that moment? Do you remember? Yep.
Sometimes people say no thank you, but they also say no thank you when I just give it.
Yeah. When you gave it to this lady, did you just hand it to her? Do you remember?
I don't remember if I said something or not.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, it's just interesting because, again, you said about the waiting for the invitation piece, and that was like the hard part. But the thing is, it doesn't mean that you don't do anything in your life. It doesn't mean you just sit back and like not do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can still share your message with people. Yeah. Absolutely. And then you will find your right people will come to you to like extend and amplify that, just kind of what I was saying before. So I'm not saying I'm amplifying you very much by doing this podcast with my small platform,
well, you do.
But that's one of those things. It's bringing an opportunity to you by just doing what you did. And that's those stepping stones. So it doesn't mean that you can't, but I was just curious in that because I feel like you're pretty attuned to your spleen. So you would probably know the right people to almost walk up to that aren't going to reject you anyway. So there'll be that piece of it. And I just wonder if there was a different way you did approach it, if it would change anything. So that was just my own curiosity of like kind of asking them. So it is more like they can then extend that invitation to you, even though you're going to them. Does that make sense? Like,
I know.
And I don't know.
I actually don't know because I don't think so much when I'm doing it. So I'm not sure when I ask or when I say.
Well, maybe you can, just as you're doing it, maybe just take a little, like a mental or a body note and just see, like, and just be curious for your own.
Yeah.
But the whole point is just to give it out and see, right? I think I love the whole idea that you're just doing it and almost seeing how people respond. I actually think that's a whole nother part of the experiment in itself, if I'm quite honest. Like, always getting a yes to the love and to the happy little moments is one thing, and brightening someone's day. But I actually think it's almost more potent the other side, because that's where the ripple makes a big difference. It's just not as fun to get that.
I'm not sure if it I feel like it made a big difference to me because I learned to deal with rejection. But sometimes the positive reactions I feel like they have a bigger ripple because sometimes people are so touched. And then I feel like, okay, this is really doing something and really making a difference. Sometimes people, for example, I was joking and then I received 2 messages from 2 different men who said that it made such a big difference in their day. And then I feel like, then the ripple is more, maybe only more visible, but then I'm sure there's a ripple.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think maybe more visible. And I'm not, I actually think you're possibly very right. But I think they're both important, like personally, when I think about it, because like you said, what it showed you by doing that, even though to you it was like a negative response. It's not negative, but a negative response. So that was a ripple for you to look inside and see different things. So the same with her, and maybe not her, but the next person as well. But again, as a projector, and I'll just bring it back to human design again, you innately want to be recognized for your work, because as a projector, you sort of always but you're always sort of waiting in the wings. You have all of this advice. You sort of can see everything. You know how things should flow. When you see something that's not working how it's supposed to, you want to fix it. You want to create better. Would you say that's right? So when then you hand out your cards, they're validating that for you. They're going, I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so you can move forward. And so it's fantastic. You're exactly what you're supposed to be doing. It doesn't make it a bad thing that like you want to be validated, but you're probably hearing that more and it feels more important because it's something that you need as well, which is creates more love for you and more connection within yourself. But I also think the other side creates a ripple too.
Yeah, I really hope that it creates a ripple, for example, with that girl or other people who reject. But at least I know that it does something good for me.
Yeah. Oh, so what is your plan from here? So now you're doing this. You guys have been doing some happy drawings on the streets and doing bits and pieces. But what's your next adventure look like? Where to from here? What else for happy little moments?
Yeah, first I have to make a lot of chalk drawings here because I had a lot of inspiration that I still have to do. That will take at least a few days to do, and also I need to find new chalk to do that. and then my ticket goes back on the 25th of February from Bali to the Netherlands.
Okay.
But I feel like I'm not ready because I want to create a movement, and I feel like that's just starting. I want to be a speaker about kindness, so I wrote a TED Talk. And I applied for the TED Talks, but I'm waiting for the invitation now.
Where did that vision come from? Like, even just that sentence, what people say to you. So what's next with your goals? I'm going to go and do some chalk drawings.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do. I have to wait and get my chalk and go and do chalk drawings. Like, firstly, that's really cool. I just love that answer.
Why?
But then, because like you said, you don't like to adult. And that's not an adult response, but it is the absolute, like, best response I have heard. I think is fantastic. But what, like, where did the idea for the TED Talk come from? Like, I listen to TED Talks, I love them, and I don't know that something in me goes, I can do that. So how did that drop in?
Oh, you feel like you want to do that too?
Oh, I love looking at them. I love the idea. But I'm still battling with, what do I have to say that's enough for a TED Talk? So for you, you've got it. You've done it. You're like, it's already happening. And I just want to know how that process felt for you, how you got to that point.
Hello. It's Emily here. You guys may have heard me talk about human design, and will continue to do so throughout my podcast because it's helped me to expand my life using it as a tool along my journey. If you would like to take your first step on a road to less doubt, then download your own free, personalised human design chart by clicking on the link in the show notes. Then, as you follow along on socials or the podcast, you'll be able to integrate this and gain more clarity of who you are and remember who you came here to be. Lastly, I'd love for you to join our community of like-minded women inside our free Facebook group. All links are in the show notes. All right, back to the episode.
First, public speaking was my biggest fear, and I didn't really do anything to overcome that. It just went away, and maybe if I'm going to do it, then I'm still very afraid, but I just care less what people think because my mission feels so strong that it doesn't really matter in that moment what they think of me, but what they think of my mission more. And I had a feeling of becoming a speaker and writer for it. I don't know. It just came a few times in my mind. And I felt like if I was going to do this trip, it would help me to disconnect a little bit from the work in the way I'm doing it now, to see what kind of ways would fit the best in this moment. And if I would have stayed home, I would keep on going the way I went, which was also good because I helped people surprise other people, but I just felt like there's something bigger or something different that I want to do. And I had in my mind that I maybe wanted to become a speaker and writer. But then I was in Bali waiting for inspiration because I thought the idea came in Ubud. So I was waiting in Ubud until the inspiration came, but it didn't come. So I was waiting for a month and nothing came. And then I went to Nusa Lembongan, and then my English poems came for the first time because I'm writing poetry, but I thought I couldn't write it in English. But then poems started coming in my mind in English for the first time. So I have 3 poems now, and then I was discovering the island. I was on my bicycle, and I wanted to go diving and free diving and many things I wanted to do, and I had a week left or something like that, or maybe more. But then I was asking for guidance, like, what is the best I could do now? Should I go diving or should I sit on the beach? Because there is a specific place on the beach where I felt very inspired, also where the poems came. And then I got a poem in my mind, and it said, just go to the beach, sit there and write, because the biggest adventures will happen inside. So I went to the beach, and then the TED Talk came.
Holy shit. That's all I have to say to that. I have nothing inspirational. I just am in awe. I think that's incredible. And then I sat here listening, going, you literally just said that you followed your intuition and then you waited. You went to your wood, you waited. And then you're like, no. Then you responded to something. You went, you did that. Yeah. Then you got the next bit that dropped in and then you just followed it. Like you literally sat and you had fun. So in your waiting, you didn't just wait and be like, oh yeah, like nothing's coming for me. You still did what you enjoy. You had experiences, you had fun, you did things that bring you joy. It lit you up. Then the inspiration dropped in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what helps me a lot with these things, and also with, for example, going to do a TED Talk, is that I don't take myself so much serious anymore. So if the inspiration doesn't come, I don't feel like I feel. I mean, I went to Bali, so what if it doesn't come? I spent some money and I will find jobs again. And it's even a bit funny if I would go to Bali for inspiration and it doesn't come. Like, come on. I mean, I don't know how to say, but
you can't lose.
Sorry?
You can't lose. You can't go to a beautiful island and then be sad that you didn't get the next piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And even in that moment, I was thinking it was a bit funny that I was in such an inspirational place, but without inspiration.
Yeah, I like that. I love the way you think.
Inspiration comes anyway back. It's always there. So, yeah.
I think if you give yourself the space to do it and you start listening to you, is what I would say. Like, you're doing that. You're giving yourself the space. You're nourishing yourself the right way. You're leading from your heart. Like, you're leading from those places that you're supposed to. And that's why I think it's dropping in for you so much.
Yeah.
And kindness and love, I think it literally makes everything go around. And it's just the world just needs more of it. I think all of us are literally here. The only purpose I believe that there is love and connection.
That's true.
And then personal growth, because between those three things, like even you talking to me and me having this conversation, there's a lot of love in the conversation because it's a lot about kindness and love. Then there's a new connection, but me having this conversation with you is teaching me things about me. And so then I get to grow in it, and I feel like I'm then fulfilling more of what I want to do, and vice versa, I'm hoping.
And I'm learning as well from this conversation.
Yeah, and then that the world just goes round from that, and it's so simple, and we make it so difficult. We make life
it's very simple.
So difficult. I'm tired of making life difficult.
Yeah.
So I love it so much. Like, honestly, there's so much of your chart that is literally here to be a guide, to inspire others. Like, there's just so much of it. So I'm not going to talk into all of that now, but I will share it with you. I can either drop more voice notes, or I will type it all out and you'll get to hear that. But I feel like I missed one key part, and apologies if you did say it and I didn't link it up. But you started off with your art. And in that space, and then they didn't believe you, and then all of that. Where was the moment from that to doing these cards specifically? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I didn't tell that yet, but
good.
After I graduated, so they let me graduate after me proving that it was for me, and then I went to Bali. I was invited by a friend who was there, and I bought a one-way ticket because I didn't really know what to do after my studies. And then I was there, and I did not so much there. I was just chilling. And then one night, the idea came that I have to make notes to leave them behind for strangers. And that idea felt so strong. It literally felt like this is my life's work. It felt like a whisper that this is what I'm here for. And then I immediately started doing it, but then I went home to the Netherlands and I was busy with things like finding a house and a job. And I forgot a little bit about it, also because Bali is very magical and the Netherlands is the opposite. But it felt constantly a little like a... And I was not working on it, but like, is it still there for me? Is the idea still waiting for me? And then I felt like, yeah, it's still waiting for me. So I started. And then from that moment, I never stopped, and I never, ever thought about ever stopping with this. I want to do it for the rest of my life.
And you will. And it will just get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. It already is. Like, I love what you do. Even just watching some of your little reels, like just those reactions, they just fill your heart, and it makes you realize, because there's so much negativity in the world, but only when you go looking for it, to be honest.
Definitely.
And so the more we can fill ourselves up with seeing this stuff and have more of it around, everyone starts feeling better. And I know that sounds so simple, the way I've just broken that down to that. I know that there's so much more in it, but
it is very simple.
It's just that. So by doing that and just watching it, your heart expands a bit and goes, oh, my little bit. You know, sometimes I question in my salon, or my little conversations. Those little conversations are big, and they create ripples. Your cards create ripples. And for me, it reminds me that that the look on a street, or offering someone some help, and even if it's just with my kids or it's just with a client, that's enough, instead of looking at this bigger purpose and everything. So for me, I say thank you for what you're doing. So thank you. But also with you doing that, and the way it dropped in, couldn't be the most perfect thing for us to end on, I don't think, because you said you took yourself to Bali, and then you got that whisper of like, this is what I have to do. And without your mind clicking in and you just trusting that, like we said at the start, that's you on your path straight away doing it. And then you're like, oh, I went and I got busy. I got busy doing life, and I got busy adulting for a moment. But then the universe was like, hold on, you've got this idea. I gave it to you for a reason. I need to steer you back. And then that's the Brazil girl going, hold on, like, I'm just going to knock again. Are you going to take it, or are you going to keep going the wrong direction a little bit longer? And you were like, nah, I'm back on course, and now you haven't stopped. And I think that's amazing.
And then after, I think, 2 years, I've been spending a lot of time and money on my cards. I was making them all myself at that point. And then in the beginning, people were excited about it, but then they started asking me questions like, it's very nice, but for how long are you going to do this? And I'm an illustrator, so they were saying things like, maybe you should find a job in illustration, because that's what you said. But then it was already that strong that I knew, no, I'm gonna do this no matter what. And then the opportunities came.
Yeah, you trusted you, and that's it. No one else's voice, just you. That's perfection. Sophie, thank you so much for having a chat. Can you please tell people where to find you, where to find your cards, where to reach out to you, where to invite you into their world, so to speak, please?
My website is happylittlemoment.com, and I have Instagram, and that's happy_little_moments without the S.
Perfect. And I'm going to drop it all in the show notes below anyway, so people can click on that and find you and see what you're doing and send you back some love, hopefully. But thank you so very much for the chat today. And hopefully I'll see you in Hervey Bay soon, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so too. I will let them know that we will come.
I think that's a great idea. Bye.
Bye.